Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is Yankee and the Brit, and we're going to talk some divisional round NFL playoffs.
We are just reeling off the shows right now, man. Like, now's a good time to follow the Yankee and the Brit. We're in our rhythm. We're there to go. And on top of that, we have all the other shows as well that are picking up. So keep up to date with the shows, subscribe, hit the bell. And this is my third show in like 2 days.
Look at you. They're going to get sick of looking at you, Maddie.
Yeah, I'm going to have to start improving my camera. I feel like it's the camera that makes me look bad on these things rather than my actual looks. So,
Well, I wasn't even going there, but okay. So before we hit the games, I guess first thing we got is Cliff Kingsbury looks like he's going to be the offense coordinator in Chicago. So that probably signals something for Justin Fields. They can't do it until Monday, but it looks like Bill Belichick's going to be the new head coach in Atlanta. And Tennessee's still on a wide range of people that they're interviewing for their head coaching job.
Yeah, I think Tennessee is the perfect kind of place for these, and Seattle as well, is the perfect place for these offensive coordinators coming out, right? Like that seems like the organization that you go to with them. Like when it was talk about the Cowboys and Eagles, it was never Bobby Slowick that was going to be there, is it? So I feel like Bobby Slowick at the Tennessee Titans would be a really good fit. Ben Johnson is obviously the one who's top of the chain.
Do you think he'll bring in Sam Munson as his like offense coordinator, or
Sam Munson is Sam Munson's dream job in the NFL, PFF Sam, is to be like the assistant to the GM, where like you don't really do anything, but you still get paid like the big money.
Well, that's my dream job too. Then, if that's what we can choose, because you know how everybody's like, "What's your dream job?" Like, none. My dream is to like not work and travel. Or like, what do you mean, my dream job? My dream is to just not work and travel. Like, there's the dream.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if there wasn't some form of if Tennessee got rid of the GM. No, GM's still there in Tennessee.
Yeah, he's still there.
Yeah,
he just came out and guaranteed everybody the other day that him and Vrabel get along.
Sure, man. Yeah, definitely. You chat your shit.
I think it's the owner. I think it's the owner who did all of this. And
really,
and part of me thinks that Vrabel went in there and wanted out.
I think Vrabel wanted to leave, right? That's what was going on. And now Vrabel looks like he's missing the table. Yeah.
Well, he could sit. They still have to pay out his contract. He's got one more year on his contract, so he can sit golf, get paid for a year, and then find a new team.
He can be picky.
Year.
Like Vrabel can be super picky with his job if he wants to be. Like he can sit on the Seattle job and say, I don't want to be the guy that comes after Pete Carroll in Seattle. You know, he can say that. Nobody wants to be the head coach in Carolina. Like I'll be interested to see who Carolina ends up getting, because like what's going on there. And then the Raiders job where Gibson is going to be, it sounds like Gibson's probably going to get the job, right? Like that's what it sounds like to me, that he's keeping his job, like the Raiders. But if he has like Antonio Pierce. Yes, Antonio Pierce, sorry.
Yeah.
Who's Antonio Gibson? Must be a footballer. Anyway, he looks like he's holding on to his job in Vegas. Well, if he has a rocky start to the season, they'll probably get rid of him, and that Vrabel at the Raiders is a really good fit.
Yeah, and candidates are getting less. We have Billy O'Brien heading back to college, be USC's coordinator.
Ohio State's coordinator.
Ohio State. Yeah, Ohio State's offense coordinator. It's because, and people don't want to hear this, but it's because the Big Ten now rule college football. Alabama has 25 people transferring because Saban retired. 25.
Saban's gone. It'll be interesting to see what goes on, because
they're dead.
I'm sorry, I can't remember where Alabama play football, but I imagine it's not the like town. Birmingham. I bet it's not the craziest town to go to college, right? I mean, it's
Birmingham,
a big
Alabama is
college.
the
So.
only city in the middle of Alabama, Atlanta, and Florida. I mean, there's big cities in Atlanta and Florida, but in that general area, like they're the only one. You have to travel to get to big cities in Florida. You have to travel to Atlanta to get into a big city in Georgia. So that whole area, I lived in Alabama and Mobile for 6 months, and it is the most southern state. Like, it was a shock to me, and I grew up in the United States, to move to Alabama from the north.
Yeah, so if you think of Bama, like, it's like, if you have that great program there, then fucking great. Like, if you go for the program, then that's fine. And I'm not saying that Bama's all of a sudden going to totally fall off a cliff, because I don't know. Like, I don't know enough about college football to say that. But if USC come calling for you,
they're going to be what they were before Saban.
Yeah, if you have USC coming for you, well then I'd rather live in USC, you know? If you have Georgia coming for you, well, at the moment, I'd rather play for Georgia. Like, looking at that. If Michigan come calling from you in the transfer portal.
Well, that's the thing, too, is nobody wants to hear it, but besides Georgia, the SEC doesn't have any huge colleges anymore, and all the big name schools moved to the Big Ten, with Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, all Penn State already there. Now you got USC, Washington, Oregon. Like, so they're stacking the Big Ten, and the Big Ten is now going to be the division in college football. I think at some point you will see a Big Ten SEC championship game against each other before the playoffs. I think that's where we're going. With this.
Yeah, because you have there's also most of the talent in football does come from the South, though, right? So I guess, like, Texas do look good. I would say Texas is probably a big name in the SEC, but like,
Texas hasn't been good though since Colt McCoy.
Yeah, but they were good last year. Like, and they
were their best season, and then they got walked in the playoffs. I mean, if you're going to use that same argument against Michigan losing last year to TCU, Texas losing is just as big of a deal. Like, they got walked.
Yeah. Well, Texas losing to Washington, but Michigan losing to TCU is also not a fair argument in that game, because if you just watch that game, it looked like the Cowboys against the Packers game, where just one team just like rocked up and just choked.
Historically, TCU is a better school than Washington, though.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. From when I've known anything,
Washington's never been a big school. I mean, they've had a couple good years over their program, but they've never been an elite school. So, like, this was something new for Washington, where TCU has had the times with your boy, the Red Rifle.
Andy Dalton.
And different people, they've had those runs, where Washington, that really hasn't been a thing.
Right, okay.
And
okay, fair enough.
It's the most popular, probably, I'm speaking from just general thought, not like actual facts, but it's probably the biggest Christian college for sports in the United States, TCU.
Well, it depends what you say Mormons are, isn't it? If you can't BYU.
They're not considered Christians, right? And then BYU still isn't bigger than TCU.
Really?
I'd say
I'm only going off very recency bias.
When it comes to the strength of schedule, their conferences, that type of thing. So
I'm only going off recency bias, I imagine. Yeah, but it's an interesting move for Bill O'Brien to go back down. It's also a very interesting move for Cliff Kingsbury to come back up, because, as you said, I think that does mean the end for Justin Fields in Chicago, right? Like, the reason you bring Cliff Kingsbury is all of this stuff about Caleb Williams saying he doesn't want to go to Chicago. Maybe that changes if Cliff Kingsbury's the offensive coordinator, because obviously Cliff Kingsbury was the offensive coordinator in USC.
And what if they fuck everybody up and actually do the right thing and take Jalen Daniels #1 overall? I don't know.
They won't. No, you make Cliff Kingsbury for the Caleb Williams move, though, don't you? Like, that's the reason you do that.
Yeah, but otherwise you go for Cliff Kingsbury because you just want a guy who can handle young college quarterbacks, right? Like, he's proven.
Yeah.
The reason he got the job in Arizona is because they wanted him to be with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, and yes, Also, people are putting out a lot of hate on Cliff Kingsbury online for getting this job, and it's like you're thinking of Cliff Kingsbury, the head coach. That's why he's Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, is good. Cliff Kingsbury is a good offensive coordinator in the league and works well with young college quarterbacks. You're right. When you watch Caleb Williams, you watch Kyler Murray, and actually, if you watch Daniels as well, like you kind of see the traits in those guys in Kyler Murray. And although they didn't win what they should have won in Arizona when he was the head coach with Kyler Murray looked good.
I also think part of the reason you hire a guy like Cliff Kingsbury in Chicago is because you're already thinking, what if I have to fire Eberflus halfway through next season?
Yeah, that's fair. And there's also the point of he's been a head coach before. How many people want to take that plunge again? So they might not steal our offensive coordinator. So like Josh McDaniels in going back to New England, he did so terribly in his head coaching job the first time round. He then goes back, is an offensive coordinator in New England, does a great job. They get another decade with him at as offensive coordinator before he gets his next head coaching job. Maybe Cliff Kingsbury has that as well, where he's just destined to be a head coach, an offensive coordinator now because of how badly he did as a head coach his first time round.
To me, this move means he wants to be a head coach in the NFL again, because he easily could have grabbed a head coaching job in college in a heartbeat. There's colleges that would have hired him as a head coach. So for me, this makes me feel like he wants to be a head coach again in the NFL. Because if you just want to be a head coach, there's a lot of schools that would have taken Cliff Kingsbury the last 2 years happily. Like, I think if he wanted to be a head coach again in college, he would have been a better pick in Alabama.
I wonder, though, if that would be true. I wonder if he got contacted about the Carolina job. But nobody wants to attach their card to that wagon on his second chance after doing so poorly as a Cardinal.
Not only are they a bad team, which we've talked about, they have some pieces, but they don't have the draft stock to build it up. They have a meddling. I feel like I'm watching Scooby-Doo. I would have got away with it if it wasn't for the meddling kids. No, but they have that meddling owner in Tepper, right? And who wants to deal with Monday meetings with the owner every fucking week? Like, this is the thing, and I've always said this: players play, coaches coach, owners own. Just fucking own the team already. Like, hire smart people and get out of the way. Why is Robert Kraft a billionaire? And Kraft is so big because he hired CEOs that know what the fuck they're doing, and he got out of their way. I mean, you can say that with any major like billionaire, right? Why is Jeff Bezos so good? Because he hired smart people and listened to them. So if you're an owner, just hire smart people and get the fuck out of their way.
Yeah, that is fair. And like Carolina, bad ownership, bad team.
It's the weird
bad position, because you can get a bad position in your team.
That's usually why an owner's bad, is because they're cheap, right?
Yeah.
Like we watched this with the Brown family with the Bengals.
The Bengals.
He's
forever.
not cheap. He just won't get out of his own fucking way. He's fired his MLS coach like 3 times already. He's like, so like if you go through his firing, he's fired like 7 head coaches through his teams in 2 years.
They also have an awful position for rebuilding as well, because you have the Bears. No matter what you think about the Bears and whether you think they have a good team now and they're certain pieces away, or whether you think their team is shit, well, they also have a ton of draft capital and a ton of cap to work with. So they're a really nice team to have to rebuild. So it's like, that's why I'm so surprised that they kept Eberflus and didn't go to Harbaugh and say, look at all this stuff that we've got to improve.
I'm actually glad you brought that up. Harbaugh is negotiating an immunity clause in his college contract. So I think he's actually using the NFL to leverage a new deal to go back to Michigan.
Yeah, which leaves the Chargers in a really horrible spot, because now all of the good coaches will have gone. Like, it means they probably miss out on Belichick, right? It means they miss out on Belichick because they're waiting on Harbaugh. But I'm surprised that he's going to stay in Michigan, but I'm also really not, because he loves Michigan. I'm surprised from the point of view of like,
he grew up in Ann Arbor. not only played
Yeah.
for them, but grew up there too.
Yeah, I think the NFL is like the be all and end all of the sport. But if you're a Michigan fan, if you support Michigan, like you don't support the Lions, you support Michigan, then maybe winning the college championship again and again and again is the be all and end all for you. So it's like what we were talking about with Louis Rees-Zammit, where it's like people are like, oh, he's just giving it a go for the money, and it's like, well, no, maybe he just loves the NFL and that's what he wants to do, you know. So yeah, it's interesting if Harbaugh doesn't do that, doesn't come up to the NFL.
Hey, bringing smoke. If you're watching, that was a shot at you. Feel free to jump into the comment. Yeah, so the coaching carousel goes round and round, and we can't find out anything till Monday because that's the earliest that anybody can hire anybody. I'm curious to see what happens with Ben Johnson, and let's just start with that. Let's start with that. Even though it's a Sunday game, let's start with that Buccaneers-Lions game, just because I got some shit to say. So Matthew Stafford came out in the middle of the game and told Gardner Johnson how dirty as fuck he was, his exact words. You're dirty as fuck. You know you're dirty as fuck. You're on film. You're dirty as fuck. I think were the exact quotes. So somebody put together a reel that, or I guess I call it a reel. It was on YouTube, a video on YouTube that I watched with all of his dirty hits this year. Gardner Johnson is dirty as fuck. And he's taken out TJ Hawkinson. He's taken out, what's his name, from the Rams. He shoots at the knee every time. I get why players fucking hate him, and I didn't realize this till I watched this video. He's getting a lot of hate from players on how he plays too. And I don't want to really overregulate football, but there should be a rule that you can't take a dude's knee out as an undefended, or you're not be able to defend yourself. So we say defenseless receiver for the head. That should be for the below the knee too. I'm not saying take out tackles below the knee, but hitting a defenseless receiver below the knee should be something the NFL thinks about.
Yeah, I think we've spoken about tackle technique a couple of times, and we were like me and my family actually were talking about the differences in tackle technique between American football and rugby, especially after the Eagles game where the Eagles missed 13 tackles. Now it's a mentality thing, the tackle technique. So everybody says, oh, with pads on, it's totally different. And like, yeah, that's fine. It is totally different. But the mentality in rugby is we don't care about giving up a yard. Like that's okay. So you wrap around and you just bring the guy down falling backwards. So you just wrap around like.
Okay, but how do you wrap around and hold on to a guy who runs 4.2 and can squat 600 pounds?
As we were talking about the other day, there are plenty of rugby players who run just as quick as NFL players.
But they don't wear pads, so they don't use their body as weapons.
No, yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. So CJ Gardner-Johnson has to tackle a guy. CJ Gardner-Johnson has to tackle a guy lower because he's a smaller guy than Tyler Higbee, right? Like smaller guy than Tyler Higbee, smaller guy than TJ Hawkinson. He's probably going to get wiped out. But you don't need to like bomb below the knee. Like I agree with you. You don't need to. If you're going to come and just try and clean somebody out, then you hit them in the midriff, right? If you're not going to do that, you get to the ball and you wrap. The rule should be you can take somebody out below the knee, that's fine, but you need to wrap and then bring them down with the momentum so we're not losing players due to injury from just no arm, shoulder pad tackle right to the fucking kneecap. It's like, well, that's obviously going to cause injuries to our great players as well. Whereas if you bring in a safety aspect of that, then that would be the way to do it, because it's not fair to say to defenders you can't tackle below the knee, because you should be tackling below the knee in good technique, but also it's not really fair on the tight end who is just sat there and just getting absolutely annihilated like at the kneecap. So it does need to be a passive tackle technique if it's going to be below the knee, in my opinion.
Yeah, the whole thing with the way that they hit is wild, because nobody wants to talk about the legs ever. They're always worried about the head. But if you ask a player what they would rather have you protect. They would rather have you protect their knee, which is just wild in itself, right? So,
Yeah, I think that's due to money
oh,
earning
I was
potential
trying
there,
to get
isn't
that
it?
to play, but oh,
Yeah.
here.
Okay. I think it's due to kind of
Yeah, so this is where Stafford comes running up, though, and he's telling him it's on tape, right? Like, you're dirty as fuck. You're dirty as fuck is what was the part. They're not. They don't have it. They don't have the mic'd up on this one, but
yeah. I think I think it's an interesting point because tackling and so I think the players saying they'd rather get tackled below the knee, they'd rather have be protected below the knee rather than at the head. I think that is a short term want rather than maybe a long term want. But really, they should be protected in both places, right? Like we
but
don't want to lose these
I gotta
players.
say this just from that comment. Like, why does like they're the players? They're the ones who should get to decide what's more important to be protected.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I agree.
and people always like, well, you got to protect their head, and these guys were like, I would rather protect my own head and have you protect my legs. And the NFL never wants to listen to the players.
Yeah, they should protect both, really. And in my opinion, you should be protecting both. And the way to protect it is the passive tackle. The other part of this is it Curse who Curse plays playing safety for the Steelers got banned for the entire year for his hit on Michael Pittman, which was a hit to the head, and it knocked Michael Pittman out for 2 weeks. But Curse comes and hits him, like is aiming for the hip when he comes in to hit him, and Pittman lowers into him and hits him with the helmet. And Curse gets banned for the rest of the season because of because of the force he comes in to hit him with. But it's good tackle technique from Curse. So Curse gets banned for the season. These guys who
Well,
have regularly come in and torpedo at the knee
it's
don't get a single thing at all.
it's because it was multiple offenses by him throughout the year.
Yeah, I know, but that particular one though was actually just like Pittman kind of fell into his oncoming head, and it's stupid, and it should have been a penalty. And Curse needs to be more regulated when he comes into the tackle. Needs to be a bit more like take the breath and then take the position when he comes in for the tackle. But these guys, yeah.
Sorry, I was just gonna say. I also think the offensive player has to take some responsibility in that case. Like, I think the NFL gets it wrong a lot where they could get it right. Like, if it's on the receiver for ducking, that's not the defender's fault. I don't think that should be a penalty. But things where they call them, unprotected players and, different things like that, if you're going to try to protect them, which I always find it weird because I'm stuck caught in this weird situation is why do we feel like we got to regulate what grown ass adults decide they want to do with their body, right? Like, because the players are against it. If the players were for it, it would be one thing. So that's where I get weird about the whole thing because the players are against it. But I also get that the NFL doesn't want a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit. It has nothing to do with player safety. It's because they had the billion-dollar lawsuit that they had to pay out because of the old 80s NFL players.
I wonder how many NFL players say they're against it because they want to look tough and go with everything. But if it actually came down to an anonymous vote, how many people would vote against it? I'm interested to know. I'm not saying that's the case.
Just from knowing athletes around here, I think you'd have 90% that vote against it.
I think that would be silly for their investment of fortune. I think it would, I get it. Athletes are built fucking different. Totally.
Yeah, alpha
totally
males aren't
different.
trying to hear you tell them what they.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is like, okay, so when I grew up, not half of these receivers wouldn't be in the NFL because they wouldn't be tough enough to come across the middle in the 1990s.
Yeah, I think that it adds to the spectacle as well. The fact that we're not losing we're not losing these receivers. Don't get me wrong, I love seeing a defensive game as much as other people, but I also love.
I miss
Justin Jefferson, crazy catches.
I miss watching that fucking slot receiver get blown the fuck up across the middle and the safety standing over the top of him like, don't come across the middle. And I mean, but I grew up on that. That was the football I grew up on. So it's very weird to me. I've watched the very American term, but I've watched the pussification of the NFL over the years.
Which is a very American term.
But it's very weird because I understand they want to protect them and but I understand they don't want to get sued and they hide it by saying they want to protect them because the NFL owners don't give a fuck about the players. But they act like it's all on the players. But for years, ESPN and all these other places had the shows like Jacked Up and all that where they show the biggest.
Yeah.
And so it was, talking out of both sides of their mouth for a while there.
Yeah, So I think they should have a more passive tackle below the knee.
Dan Campbell came out and said that's how we coach it.
Which is like I can see that, but that also means you're a dirty bastard. Like, like you're coaching to like.
He was a tight end. He should actually feel for Higbee, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Sam Laporte is injured because of his coaching. Like they're out at tight end because of the way he coaches the game.
I've never wavered from this, but even more, I don't like Dan Campbell.
The past 3 weeks, and like it sounds like I'm biased because I'm a Cowboys fan and the beef he struck up with the Cowboys.
I talk to you a lot, and all the people. It has nothing to do with the Cowboys. Maddie and I talk a lot, and I would shit on Maddie in a heartbeat if I thought it was hate, and it's not. I'll defend him on that one.
It's him coming out the way he has, and he just like spits his dummy out of the. Do you guys call it a pram?
A what?
A stroller or a buggy.
With the
babies.
The babies.
You put the babies in a
stroller. In a stroller, yeah.
Stroller, right? Okay.
What did you call it though? Let's go back. A what?
So a pram.
Pram.
P-R-A-M. Yeah.
Okay.
Like tram, but with a P. Pram or a buggy is the other one. So like he sounds like a baby who's spitting his toys out, spitting his dummy out of the stroller. Like dummy. That's a pacifier as well, right? Oh my god! Now we're hitting like translation issues.
Yeah,
but he throws his toys out, like gets really upset about the whole thing, and that's not what you want to see in your head coach. Like I don't care. And it fostered it in the players as well. When Amon-Ra St. Brown came out and was like, I should have gone to the Pro Bowl. I'll remember this. Like, I'll remember that. I know that I've been stubbed from the Pro Bowl. I'm like, that's a really toxic environment for your players to set because that's fine when you're winning. Like, the fact that they're winning, that's great. I saw them starting to fall apart under the pressure a little bit in the second half of that game. Like in the last game, the Rams should have maybe got that win. And it looked like they put so much pressure on themselves, the world being against them. Like they're letting in so much noise into that building that I think it looked like the moment was getting too big for the offense on that side of the ball. I'm not saying that they had a terrible game, and it's a great win to get against Sean McVay and the Detroit Lions. But that moment felt too big. It felt like they were losing that moment and the momentum in that last game. And I think it's because of the environment that they've created since that Cowboys game. It's bubbled over the top.
Yeah, and there's something weird going on in there with the organization because you got Gardner Johnson also coming out talking shit about Baker Mayfield and saying that they have good receivers, but no quarterback. And then he starts listing the receivers and he lists Russell and Baker fires back like Russell hasn't even played a snap for us. So maybe you want to go watch some more film.
Wasn't it Golden Tate? Didn't he list Golden Tate? No. Wasn't that who was it?
No,
Russell?
It was Russell.
I thought it was right. Okay. I was like Golden Tate.
But you're like, you don't even know who you're playing against this weekend. Like, is that what I'm hearing? Because that's wild in itself.
Yeah, Baker came out and said it sounds like he doesn't watch film, which was a total burn. Like that was so funny. That was did you see the reporter who asked Todd Bowles about how they're gonna play
Todd
in the
Bowles
weather in Detroit?
lady, you're a fucking idiot. That's what Todd Bowles wanted to do, but he held it back in because he was so confused looking at her like it's in a dome. Like
I
we
felt
got
really
we
sorry
got
for
the
her
quote for
because
20 seconds. Like
I feel really sorry for her because I imagine she's like
dumb.
I imagine she doesn't call football the whole time. She's just been sent to a press conference because they're understaffed in that particular regional newspaper down in Tampa. Like I feel like she's gone, but she should have just sat there and took notes. Didn't need to ask a question. But yeah, so I worry about the Lions making this moment too big for them. I think they'd be, and a person who the moment definitely doesn't feel too big for right now is Baker Mayfield. Like I feel like we're seeing the old Baker back. What do you think about that?
Well, I think I teased this earlier in the week, and there's a 6.5 point spread. And I'm taking the Bucs 6.5. That's how I feel about Baker coming into this game and the Lions falling apart. I'm riding with the Bucs. I'm taking the points, and I actually think the Bucs are going to win this game.
Wow. Yeah. So
look at now, even with Baker not having the greatest game last week because his, QBR wasn't, it was like a 43 or something.
Baker Mayfield had a fucking great game.
Balled the fuck out. That's what I was just going to say. You can shit on that stat all you want, but Baker balled out. And where are the Lions the weakest? Against the pass over the middle of the field. Where is Baker the best? With the pass over the middle of the field.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield has, when you watch Baker Mayfield, when he's in this particular mode of Baker, like I feel like he lost all of his confidence, which is weird to say about a guy like Baker. I saw somebody comment that Baker Mayfield is basically what everybody wanted Johnny Manziel to be. And I thought I was like, yeah, that's pretty fucking spot on. Like, I like that. But Baker Mayfield feels like he lost all of his confidence, goes to Carolina. And then I think a switch turned on when he played that game for the Rams where he didn't look at the fucking playbook and was just Baker Mayfield.
Do you feel like it's because Baker finally felt wanted? Like that could literally be huge.
In Tampa, I think it is about him. Like I think they've.
But even with the Rams that game, he flew in and felt wanted by McVay. Like know,
I feel like he just got there and went right. I've got nothing to lose. I'm Baker fucking Mayfield. If I see an open guy, I'm just gonna zing it right at him and just if it gets picked off 5 times, fine, fuck it. There's nothing else that can go wrong anyway this year. I've been kicked off the worst team in football. So like Baker has now got his confidence back. I think who is it? I've forgotten his name, but the offensive coordinator for the Bucs, I text you about him. Costello? No. He plays rugby for Wales.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I sent you his name earlier. But there he is. Dave Carnelis. He is the offensive coordinator for the Bucs, but he was also the quarterback coach for Geno Smith in Geno Smith's comeback year in Seattle. So he's also the quarterback coach there. So he's clearly got some sort of confidence building aspect to his ability. And what the Bucs have done with Baker Mayfield, I think is really great. I think Baker's at least deserved Daniel Jones contract now coming out of Tampa, if not more. People who don't think that Baker Mayfield is a franchise quarterback in the modern day NFL are wild. But as you very rightly said, the Detroit Lions, although their defense has improved throughout the season, especially red zone defense, they were really great against the Rams in red zone defense in that second half. And they had decent red zone defense against the Cowboys as well in week 17. Where they've struggled is big plays down the field. Like they'll play a whole amazing quarter of football on defense, and then in one drive they'll give up 70 yards in 3 plays down the field. And when you go through this Tampa team, although they've not been creating loads of these big plays throughout the season, if you look from week 8 onwards, they've been loads better. Mike Evans is a big play dynamo, and Baker Mayfield, when he's in this mode of Baker, doesn't have a lot of layered in throws. Like it's not the touch that I'm getting Baker Mayfield for. What I am getting him for is that guy's open. I'm just zinging this right at him because he throws an absolute cannon of a ball inside and outside the numbers deep down the field. I don't want Baker Mayfield throwing little layered in routes mid passes. I even want him flinging a slant over the middle or deep down the field outside the numbers, which is where the Lions are really, really weak, as you said. Yeah.
I was just going to say, and Todd Bowles' defense is head and shoulders above the Lions' defense, head and shoulders above. And so they're going to make it rough on Jared Goff and that offense all fucking day. And I think they're going to keep it close. And I have more faith in the talent on Tampa than I do on Detroit, and it's because of the coaching.
Yeah, now I think that the Lions are a better team than Tampa, and I do think they
Who has the better defense?
Yeah. Tampa has the better defense.
Who has the better wide receiver core?
Well, that's an interesting question because I would prefer Amon-Ra St. Brown than Mike Evans, but then you also have Chris Godwin in Tampa. So
I think the Tampa core is better. I think you take St. Brown and Evans, and they're pretty much a wash. And then you go down the lines, and Tampa's better.
Yeah, I think obviously the run game of the Lions is just existentially better than Tampa. Obviously, Tampa looked good against the Eagles.
But I even text you in the playoffs, White looks like a different running back in the playoffs.
I think the Eagles kind of started holding up the white flag personally when you watched it, and I don't think you'll expect that out of the Lions. But also what's really interesting in that is Tampa can stuff the run. Like if Tampa sells out for the run, they can stuff out the run. And obviously you don't really want to do that against Amon-Ra St. Brown because that guy on man-to-man is just going to absolutely eat you alive. Like, he'll find soft zones when you play zone as well, but he'll eat you alive on man-to-man. But apart from that, Leonard Davis is a great coverage linebacker, even for his age. He's an excellent coverage linebacker. So he can maybe cover like a Laporta or Amon-Ra St. Brown over the middle. So
it's
going to be a much more interesting game.
Double him with their number 2 and Antoine Winfield all game long.
Yeah, I'm surprised that this game is a 6.5, like a 6.5 spread. I'm very surprised about it. The Tampa Bay play good playoff football, it looks like, and they're a bad matchup for the Lions, I think. I think the Lions still come out with the win, but the 6.5 is too many points, in my opinion, as well. Oh, the other thing on offense, Jared Goff against the blitz, which Todd Bowles does a lot. But Todd Bowles comes with a 5-man blitz and does a bit of stunting.
And the difference about his blitz is he doesn't man up. He's like Minnesota. He runs his zone when he blitzes.
He zones out the back. But that brings me on when Jared Goff played, because it was about like Jared Goff, the whole thing was like when he faces zero coverage, he looks awful. But when he played the Vikings, he threw for 500 yards in 2 games. So like maybe he's better against the blitz than we give him credit for. So I think the Lions are still going to win, but that
had more to do with the quarterback couldn't keep the Vikings on the field. So Jared Goff was on the field all day long.
Yeah, you don't want to be blitzing. Like, you don't want to be blitzing as a defense all day long. Like, if you're going to blitz as a defense, which is what is wrong with the Cowboys sometimes, is if you blitz with a defense, you need to have long sustained drives at points to keep your pass rushers a bit, like, give them a bit more energy.
Yeah, and it doesn't help when you got Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, and a rookie 5th round pick in Jaron Hall trying to hold down the fort. But so it looks like for different outcomes, but we're both taking Tampa and the 6.5 points. The game I'm most excited to watch is the Texans-Ravens. That's the first game tomorrow. That's a 9.5 point spread where the Ravens are favored by 9.5 at home.
I think that's because of the way that the Ravens have demolished good teams this year. Like, the Ravens don't feel like, when you think about the Ravens, they don't feel like a team that plays these big blowout games. But when you actually look at their results this year, all the big games that they've gone into, they've had massive blowouts.
Yeah, have a problem with the 9.5-point spread because I think it's going to be a closer game than that. I actually think the Texans are going to be in this game with a chance to win it the whole game, but I'm still taking the Ravens to win. But with the 9.5, I think that's way too much. I like what's going on with the Texans. They're a team. I don't want to say a team of destiny, as in they're going to win the Super Bowl, but there's something special fucking going on right now in Houston. I think people should be careful to overlook them. I still think the Ravens win, but 9.5 is too big for me. So I got to take the Texans with 9.5 on this one.
Yeah, against good teams this year, the Ravens beat the Texans 25-9, but that's obviously first game of the season. CJ Stroud's first game as an NFL quarterback. Week 1. So you wash that out. The Browns, they beat 28 points to 3. The Lions, they beat 38 points to 6. The Seahawks, 37 points to 3. They did then lose to the Browns, 33 points to 31. Was that when Joe Flacco first came back? Obviously there's the 49ers game where they win 33 points to 19, and the Dolphins game where they win 56 points to 19 as well. So, like, look, when they come out of these big games, they're ready to fucking go. Like, they're ready to play. Lamar Jackson is the MVP. I think Baltimore are a very complete team. What I do worry about them, though, is they do have issues against the run. Like, they do. When they get out to a lead and their defense is playing really well and everybody has to pass on them, that they wash that, they bring that straight down. Like, as soon as they get out in front of the Ravens. But they remind me a bit of we'll talk about the 49ers aspect of this as well. But last in the review show of last week, we were talking about how the Packers got the ball first, scored the 7 points on the Cowboys, then got a stop, then scored 14. And then from there, it felt like teams like these front runners, like the Cowboys, like the 49ers, they struggle to get back in these games. So if the Texans get up 2 points, get up 2 scores, and are able to run the ball, which the Ravens defense allows you to run the ball, then, like, I think they could be pretty good. And the Texans have a good run defense this year as well. If you take out the Colts game where Jonathan Taylor went for 188 yards, they have a really good run defensive stats this year. So I think the Texans weirdly have a position to control the game, which takes a lot of the pressure off CJ Stroud playing his first playoff game away from home. If you're able to run the ball, do play action with Nico Collins streaming down the field as well. But for me, the Ravens probably just double, maybe even fucking triple coverage Nico Collins down the field, right? Like, I feel like Nico Collins might not be as available. It's all very well and good. Like, if you can stop the run with the Ravens team, for me, the Texans on defense are going to say Lamar Jackson has to beat us from the pocket, which I think he's more than able to do. I think it's a really tired rhetoric that he can't. But if Lamar Jackson has the chance to run all over you, then you have no chance of winning the game. So you've got to try and make him beat you from the pocket. Mark Andrews isn't back for this game, so his number one target is still missing. And then there's also the aspect for the Ravens of there is a rhetoric around them, like with the Cowboys. Do they have it in the playoffs? Do they choke in big games? Lamar Jackson has only won 1 playoff game in his career, or is it 2? I'm pretty sure it's only 1 playoff game in his career. Like, do they choke in these big games? So if you can get out in front of them by 2 scores, does then the moment become really big and everybody in Baltimore starts to go, oh my God, it's happening again? Like, what do you think about that? Because I think it was so evident with the Cowboys game that it's a big deal.
I think everybody's missing a very big point, and the talking heads on TV and everything. Lamar only beat 1 elite quarterback this year, and that was Joe Burrow with the Bengals in, what was it, week 2? And he beat him by 3 points. Otherwise, he hasn't played an elite quarterback. CJ Stroud is an elite quarterback. CJ Stroud is going to put the ball in places that Jared Goff's never going to do it. He's going to throw receivers open in ways that Brock Purdy's not going to do it. The fact that they're overlooking that this is one of the best quarterbacks that defense is going to have played all year also.
Yeah, I mean, he did also play Justin. Did he play Justin Herbert, or was Herbert injured by this point?
Well, does it
Yeah,
even
so he
matter
played
though that
Herbert.
the fucking Chargers are
It
so
doesn't come
fucking
with the
bad?
Chargers. Yeah, he didn't play an elite quarterback on an elite team. I think is a fair point. Like he had nobody to throw to at that point because he also beat Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, but that's
Are
in
we still
the
calling Trevor Lawrence elite though?
interesting. I would still call him elite, but interesting.
I
That
think
was
he's
also
good. I
after
think
his
he's a top
injury.
10. I don't think he's elite like anymore. Like I just
Wow, top 10 doesn't make you elite. Where does
no.
elite go off?
That's
All
your
right.
top best quarterbacks in the NFL. Your top, your Aaron Rodgers, your Patrick Mahomes, your fucking,
Okay.
you know what I mean? Those are the guys that
Yeah, yeah.
will murder you in a game by themselves. That can just come in and for one game go, watch this. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm not saying they won't win. I'm just saying 9.5 points against a quarterback. I don't think they played a quarterback as good. And even when Joe Burrow was playing this year, we all know he was still injured from the preseason. So, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, is that defense is good, but can that defense hold up against a quarterback who can throw guys open, a quarterback who can read defenses the way CJ Stroud does? I'm not kidding you when I say this. This is the greatest rookie season for a quarterback in NFL history.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. There's
And nothing
the
seems to
well,
shake CJ Stroud. Nothing seems to shake him.
yeah. I mean, obviously, Dak Prescott's rookie season was excellent as well, and he got knocked out in the divisional round, I believe, in his rookie season. But it wasn't anywhere near CJ Stroud, where CJ Stroud
I was
carried this
just ignoring you.
organization. Yeah. CJ Stroud carried this organization for a lot. And if they had Tank Dell, if Dalton Schultz hadn't dropped so many balls like the week before, like Dalton Schultz dropped some big balls, Noah Brown dropped some big catches as well. If I had more confidence in those two, or Tank Dell was on the field, I'd be saying like, watch out, this is a sneaky game. And I still think look, I think the Ravens could lose this game. And after watching the Cowboys against the Packers, I think the mental side for a team that hasn't won a lot of nowhere near as many playoff games as they should have, right? The Ravens in this period, because Lamar Jackson has one of the greatest winning percentages of all time in the regular season, but hasn't won those playoff games. So if I'm the Texans, I'm receiving the ball first. If I win the flip, I'm receiving the ball first. I hopefully go down, score a touchdown, hopefully get a stop on the first drive, go down, score at least another field goal. And then you're looking up at the scoreboard. It's 10-0 while you're at home. You're playing against a rookie quarterback. Everybody expects you to win at -9.5. Do you then melt down? What do you have from there? I don't think the Ravens will. I'm interested
Why
to
does
see if they
everybody
revert.
forget that Robert Woods can play? I don't get that either.
Yeah. I feel like I always forget that Robert Woods is still there because he doesn't have those like big plays. He's not, but every time a play breaks down, Stroud seems to go straight to Woods. That's what seems to happen. Or he just cannons it up to Collins and see what happens. So in this game, I'm going to take the Ravens to win the game, but I'm still going to take the point spread of 9.5. You can't give me 9.5 in a playoff game.
So we both
Also,
agree on that one too.
Yeah, surely it's fucking freezing in Baltimore this time of year.
Well, I'm going to sound like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth now, but the Green Bay Packers are traveling to the 49ers. 49ers are favored by 9.5. Give me the 49ers -9.5 in this game. It's not even going to be close. The Packers come back down to earth. The Niners walk them and show everybody why they're the fucking 49ers. And I think that's how that game turns out. I think the 49ers defense is going to be in Jordan Love's face all day. He's going to be running for his life. And I think the Packers are weak at the run, and the 49ers are going to run it down their throat and kill them with play action. And good luck covering all the skilled positions on the 49ers.
Yeah, there is light rain forecast in Santa Clara.
Yeah, that's normal for San Francisco area, though. So, like, nobody's going to be thrown off by some rain in the San Francisco Bay Area.
A little bit of light rain coming up. I saw somebody comment that saying, "Oh, you bet like when weather affects games, you need to bet the Like, and it's a huge spread. You need to bet against the spread. And I'm like, man, the Bills just beat the Steelers in a snowstorm, and light rain is not like, it's not the same. Like, how long is that going to
Wait,
last for?
I'm like, you live in
Yeah.
England. Isn't every day have light rain? Like,
Oh yeah, like yeah, maybe that's why. Like, we're never going to produce a great quarterback here because clearly we just can't throw in the rain. Like, that's the. Yeah, every day is just straight up drizzle. Whoa. But yeah, with the Packers against the 49ers game, look, the Packers had a great game. Jordan Love had a great game against the Dallas Cowboys, but the Dallas Cowboys fucking melted down. Like, I think that was a total meltdown from the Cowboys. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying that like the Packers offensive line is fantastic and has done did a great job against Micah Parsons. If you go back and look through, like, there was a decent amount of pressure for Love. Love Love negated those precious stats. There's a couple of guys who were saying that, or the Packers offensive line gave up zero pressures to Micah Parsons, and it's like, yeah, because Jordan Love is throwing off his back foot, so it doesn't count as in the pressure rate yet. So it completely negates a lot of those pressure stats. Like, Jordan Love had a great game thrown to open receivers, and because Aaron Jones could run the ball. The reason that Aaron Jones could run the ball is our main middle linebacker for the Cowboys is 6'3", 206 pounds. Like, we can't stuff the run with
the
that.
Cowboys
The
just shit the
49ers,
bed in that game.
and they totally shit the bed on the offensive side of the ball. We'll move to the offensive side of the ball in a second. But the Packers now have to run the ball against the 49ers linebacker core, which is unbelievable. And because they can stop the run by coming up and tackling, they don't have to hit the gap perfectly if they're not going to bust a huge run. They can also stay a little bit back and cover those zones that Dobbs was just finding the entire time. So I worry for the Packers offense in this. Love had a great game, but I don't think he's got a second game consistently in the tank on this one. And then on the offensive side of the ball, do I think that, like, Brock Purdy has been in this situation before? George Kittle has been in this situation before. Deebo Samuel has been in this situation before. Christian McCaffrey was in this situation last year. When you list those guys, like, Packers, this has been a great run and you've got a lot to build on. But going against this team, I think the 49ers shit the bed in terms of their mentality in the NFC Championship game, not in this divisional round. And as much as I hate the spread, I'm going to have to take the 9.5 as well. Which means we're agreeing again.
The 49ers and the Packers have zero chance of going to the Super Bowl because no team has ever lost to Kirk Cousins in the regular season and went to the Super Bowl.
The curse. So one of them needs to lose this week, which means the Lions are going to the Super Bowl.
No, it means Tampa Bay.
Oh, unless Tampa win. Yeah, Tampa are going to the Super Bowl.
Tampa's going to the Super Bowl.
Fucking hilarious. That'd be so funny if Baker goes to the Super Bowl before Deshaun Watson's even played like 5 games.
It would be the most Cleveland Brown shit ever to happen right there. But so you and I were both on the keep Baker train, so I don't know what Carolina was thinking. Everybody wants to use that year he was injured in Cleveland against him, and Stefanski still had him throwing the ball 50 times a game. So I just don't understand where people don't. They either just pick up narratives off the TV and don't actually watch the games, or they're dumb as fuck. I just haven't figured it out.
I think with a lot of people, it's they pick up the narratives off the TV and then watch the game, but with the glasses of the narrative of the TV on, right? Like they pick up the narrative of the TV of Baker is a diva, or like, what's one of the other ones? Like, Brock Purdy's Mr. Irrelevant, so he doesn't have the arm talent to do this. And it's like, but just sit and watch the fucking game. Like, you can see it happening. Like, it's something that you can see happening. And Brock Purdy as well, just to go back to the 49ers, is awesome.
Keyshawn Johnson said this yesterday. He said, the problem in sports is once the narrative's written, you can't change it. The narrative on Baker is already out. Baker could win the next 2 Super Bowls, and they'd be like, it's Todd Bowles' defense.
Yeah, well,
He's
That's
right
what just
though.
turns
He's
into
not
the
lying.
noise.
Like
Yeah,
the people have already
it's
written
so
this. So no
clear.
matter what Baker does, he's never going to get the credit for it. There's just certain guys, they're not, right? And I get what Keyshawn was saying. Keyshawn's like, Baker could win the Super Bowl the next 2 years, and they'd all be like, it was Todd Bowles' defense because they already made this narrative about Baker Mayfield. So, like, people get stuck into the narrative of, whatever it is, and then they never want to let it change. Like, it was Geno tried to rewrite the narrative, and that still didn't work because most people are like, oh, yeah, you're still fucking Geno Smith, dude. Like, But for the last game, this is the game most people are excited about. I don't know if I think this is going to be as close as most people do. We got Kansas City traveling to Buffalo the first time Patrick Mahomes plays a road playoff game. Buffalo's favored by
Super
2.5. Buffalo, Bills Mafia is going to be out there being wild. It's going to be a crazy electric game, and the Chiefs are going to win.
Yeah, I love the narrative of Patrick Mahomes has never played a road playoff game because I get it. I understand it, but he's also played in the Super Bowls. Like he's also played in the Super Bowls. So and when have the Chiefs ever looked bad on the road either? Like I would understand if it was the Lions who were going on the road. Like, I imagine that's going to be the narrative when if the Lions win and they go on the road and they have to play San Francisco. I imagine that will be the narrative, right? That they don't win any big games away from home, like all of that kind of stuff. That makes sense because it has evidence in the regular season and throughout the career. There is no evidence to say that Patrick Mahomes is not very good away from home. He is also excellent away from home and has played in Super Bowls away from home, included he's looked.
Repeat that part again. Super Bowls, like with an S.
Yeah, multiple.
But multiple. I know people are saying this is the new Brady Manning, and some people are getting mad. Look, it's not there yet. It really isn't. But I'm okay with the comparison because it is the modern day version of what we had every year with Peyton and Tom Brady. And I like that Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are getting that kind of billing because they are both good quarterbacks. They both play exciting football, and they always play each other tough. They do. So I like that they're building it up. So I'm actually sticking up for the people who are saying it's Brady Manning. It's not there yet, but I get what they're saying. And it's the modern day version of what we have right now. And I don't know why people want to always discredit you can't compare them to them because those were two of the greats. No, that's what we got going on right here. It's just at one point in that both of them had Super Bowl rings and so they're building to what Manning and them are if Josh Allen can ever get over the hump and get them a ring. But I like that the NFL is starting to see this and they're doing the same things. Now this is playoffs, but we're going to see we saw the Colts and the Patriots play in the regular season every year on that one game that it is adjustable. I think we're going to start seeing that with the Bills and the Chiefs. I think we're going to see them play each other every year in the regular season. I like it. I like where it's going. I think it's exciting. And it might be the most watched playoff game this weekend. It literally might be.
Yeah, I think Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen all have to will most likely play each other pretty much every season from now on, because I actually think the closer comparison is Burrow Mahomes, because Burrow's got one over Mahomes. But at least Burrow has a win over Mahomes in an important game.
So then Eli Manning should have been the one playing Peyton Manning because he had two over Brady.
Well, no. So Peyton Manning at that time, Peyton Manning also then got them over Brady eventually. But
once.
No, but Burrow
or twice.
Yeah, once Burrow has it over them once. But I just think we have a rivalry of 3, right now, which is they're all in the same conference, which is nice to have. Which is really really great to have. I want to see Allen get one over on Mahomes before we call it a massive rivalry. If this is a blowout win for the Chiefs, then let's see what happens.
You are the people I was just talking bad about, by the way. Go ahead.
No, I'm not, because I do understand that it is also a rivalry. And there's so much that goes into these rivalries as well. That what I always find interesting about quarterback versus quarterback rivalries is they're never on the field at the same time. it's just always quite interesting. So like there's so much that goes into it. And I do think the Chiefs and the Bills do have a good rivalry. I also think the Bengals as well have a great rivalry too.
I don't,
With
but
this
okay.
game, really?
No, who do they
Not
have a
like
rivalry with? Who looks at the Bengals and
the
goes,
Chiefs.
Mahomes got 2 rings, Burrow's got 0.
Allen has 0. Burrow has a
Right, but
win
where's
over
the
Allen in the
rivalry?
AFC
Where's the
Championship
rivalry?
game.
Every year we see the Bills and the Chiefs. We don't see the Bills and the Bengals every year. We don't see the Chiefs and the Bengals every year.
They come out calling it Burrowhead, like at Arrowhead, and the Chiefs make reference to that slight the last time they played.
And
I think there's more
Josh
bad
Allen
blood
is a
between
better
the Chiefs and the
quarterback than Joe
Bengals.
Burrow.
We can argue, we can discuss that another time, because I don't know whether I agree or disagree on that one. That's got too much. I think they're a wash. It's got
But
too much
every
going
year
on.
they make sure the Bills and Chiefs
side.
play each other. They don't with Cincinnati because nobody looks at Cincinnati as anybody's rival. They're Cincinnati.
I think the Chiefs have played the Bills like 3 or 4 years in a row now. Like when you include postseason and
the Chiefs
regular
have played
season.
the Bills, right? That's what I just said.
Sorry, the Bengals as well.
Yeah, but they set it up even in the regular season for these guys, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like nobody's looking at that as like the rival of.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think
anybody.
we might be getting washed in
I think there's
semantics.
like a handful of people that really believe that Cincinnati's a Super Bowl contender every year. I don't think most people believe that. And then I believe that way too many people believe the Bills are Super Bowl contenders every year.
I agree with you that Allen and Mahomes should also deserve this billing, and Burrow should also deserve this billing, because at least they have a win over it.
Fuck Burrow.
In this particular game, one thing I do want to point out is
we like quarterbacks who aren't injured.
Yeah, fair enough. I hope the refs call the fucking snowball throwing in the end zone. Like, I hope the refs do call that this game, because that was a bit of a joke. Like don't write a rule for it in if you're not going to call it when it's obviously egregious.
Well, and they don't.
I know it's a bit of fun.
Always call it, but they do give warnings, and we didn't even hear a warning giving out for it in that game, which is weird.
Yeah, like I know it's a bit of fun, but imagine you're trying to catch the game-winning thing, and then just a snowball comes and pings you right in the head, like as you go. Which, by the way, great throw if you do manage to do it. But yeah, so I do hope they call that. This, I agree with you, and I'm not sure how close this game is going to be due to how imperious
this weekend.
Really. It'd just be. I think it's like
Sunday.
23. It's like 23 degrees Fahrenheit, right? With like
25 for Sunday, yeah.
25. So like in actual, it's like a 30-degree temperature difference, which if you include wind chill, and feels like it's like a 40-degree temperature difference than what Kansas City just played in. But loads of people are giving the Bills so much credit for beating the Steelers by 14 points in the end. And then those same people don't feel like they're giving the Chiefs as much credit for beating the Dolphins because it was cold, like by 19 points in the end. And it's like, well, hang the fuck on. Like the Chiefs looked imperious.
And the Dolphins are a better team than the Steelers by a lot.
Yeah, the Dolphins are about did Mason Rudolph look like he might have a stronger arm than Tua Tagovailoa in that game? Yes.
Well, but if that's the measure,ment then DeMarcus Russell's the greatest quarterback in NFL history, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like the Bills let the reason that nobody's given them credit is because the Chiefs had that game wrapped. Like the Dolphins were never in that game. The Chiefs looked like they were going to win that game from so far out, whereas the Bills let the Steelers back into it. Like, I messaged you saying, like, we might get our point spread here, considering it was like 21 points to 0 after the first quarter. And I was like, well, the point spread is, what was it? It was like 10.
Yeah, it was wild. It was big.
It was like a huge double digit. It was like a double-digit point spread. We were like, we might get our point spread here because the Bills are letting the Steelers back into the game. And at one point, it did look like it was like all credit to the Steelers for bringing it out and getting the win. But if you don't put Patrick Mahomes down on the ground once you're beating him, he'll come back and he'll beat you. That was shown by the 13-second thing. And the Chiefs look like a different team. They're running the ball well. Their offensive line wasn't giving away loads of penalties, even though their left tackle looks like he false starts on every single play. Mahomes was throwing dimes. Like, yes, Kelsey was dropping them, but Rice was absolutely killing it as well. And their defense is fantastic. Then you look at the offensive side, you look at the defensive side of the ball for the Bills, and they have so many injuries. And Andy Reid is going to attack those injuries in this game. I think the Chiefs have got this wrapped up. Give me the Chiefs in this game.
That's the thing, too, is when I already think the Chiefs are going to win and you're still going to give me 2.5 points, that's definitely a bet I'm taking, you know?
Yeah. And it just, I'm never going to bet on the Chiefs when they're an underdog, unless there's like injury stuff in there and that, unless there's loads of injury stuff in there. I'm honestly fascinated by the Mahomes road game aspect of it. Because if he loses, then everybody's going to say Mahomes can't win on the road.
Well,
that.
Everybody who rides a small yellow bus and has to wear a helmet to school is going to say that, fucking, that's the dumbest narrative ever, right? Like, seriously.
It makes no
You're
sense.
right.
Like,
they're going to say it, but they're dumb as fuck for saying it, is my point.
Everybody's going to cut. Like, if you take,
Skip Bayless will jump on that fucking bandwagon and ride it till the wheels fall off.
Skip Bayless will live on it. If the Ravens lose, then Lamar Jackson is the worst postseason quarterback of all time, and which is a more understandable narrative than the Mahomes one, but still isn't particularly fair. Lamar Jackson hasn't shit the bed in a postseason game either. So this narrative is going to be crazy. That Chiefs defense is going to lock that. Josh Allen's going to throw at least 2 interceptions in that game, in my opinion. Costly interceptions as well. If there's an over-under on interceptions, I'd take it.
I was talking to Scott, who's in our fantasy league, Coney Island Warriors. And I grew up with him. We lived across the street from each other growing up. And I said to him last week, because he's a Bears fan, but you never have anything to cheer for when you're a Bears fan. So he watches the Bills also. And we were talking about Josh Allen, and I said, Josh Allen is more talented, but he reminds me of Jay Cutler. Just give it time, and he's going to throw you the fucking ball. Just be patient, and he's going to throw you the fucking ball.
Yeah, it's like Josh Allen has shown the ability to put the reins on that. He's shown the ability to play within himself. That's why he was so good under Daboll. Daboll had the leash on him, and he was playing within himself. But if he goes nobody's in the league has the potential, who's a decent quarterback, has the potential to lose you a game like Josh Allen.
I shit on Allen, and I hate that he gets a pass, but I would still say Josh Allen, elite.
Yeah, Josh Allen, his elite play. If you can put the reins on Josh Allen, his elite play, which is why I'm still on the side of you take the ball out of Josh Allen's hands as much as possible to limit the frustration limit the amount of turnovers. Obviously, that doesn't mean stop him playing and doing what he does, because he's allowed to throw turnovers when he's that good, but he throws costly turnovers as well.
They're going to put Josh Allen and the Bills in a situation where he can't step back. He's going to have to be the one, because I think the Chiefs are just going to – this is just me thinking – in my Andy Reid brain, right? I'm channeling my inner Andy Reid. But if I score enough points, they have to chase us. And that means Josh Allen has to throw the ball 40 to 50 times, which means we're going to get some turnovers. That's kind of my Andy Reid thought, is we just got to score points in bunches and make Josh Allen have to throw the ball 40 to 50 times.
Yeah, Steve Spagnuolo as well is an excellent defensive coordinator. So you think he'll have a plan for Josh Allen?
He's the reason that Eli's got 2 rings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody can say what they want, but Eli Manning is This is a wild statement. The worst quarterback to ever win 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, he's easily the worst quarterback to ever win 2 Super. He's going to be the worst quarterback in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Like, what's his overall record? It's like 500, isn't it? Like Eli Manning. What's Eli Manning's win-loss record?
I don't know,
check
but
that for a second.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was under 500 with 2 Super Bowl rings. It's just, I think he's only made the playoff twice in his career, and he went to the Super Bowl and won it both times.
In his career, he's 118 and 118. So
yeah, and I think he's only made the playoffs twice and won the Super Bowl both times.
Like, fucking good. Like, all right. Like, great. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be a Hall of Famer because, like, the length of time he played, the organization that he plays for, 2 Super Bowls, like 2 Super Bowls, beats the Patriot dynasty. It's not like there wasn't other good teams in the NFL either.
Yeah, but I sit back and go, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. Like, I really don't. He's going to be, but I don't really know because if you took out the Super Bowls, he's definitely not a Hall of Famer. But winning 2 Super Bowls, and he made 2 huge plays in those Super Bowls to win both of them. The Tyreek catch on the top of his head, or Tyreek catch on the top of his head. And then he hit that fucking dime down the sidelines to, I can't even remember who caught it on that fucking play. So
it's not like he was insignificant in those Super Bowl wins. Like, he played a significant role in them. So but I don't hate Spags is gonna if the Chiefs make it to the fucking Super Bowl after that regular season, like what even are the Chiefs? What even are Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? Like, how? Because like, the defense is playing great football, but that offense, like, Travis Kelce is having his worst season. Rashid Rice goes off every now and again and is a number 1 wide receiver talent, but like a young player, so has understandable up and down seasons. The rest of the wide receiver room is brain dead or has butterfingers. Like, we thought they were bad last year when they made it to the Super Bowl and won it. We thought that was their greatest achievement. If they win a Super Bowl again with this team, or even if they make it to the Super Bowl, if they win the AFC Championship with this game, this is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes' greatest achievement.
I don't know. I think I just watched the Chiefs this year and go, they looked a little off, but I thought, I even messaged you last week. They clicked. They're back. They flipped that playoff switch.
Yeah, they looked great last week. Nobody's giving the Chiefs enough ups for their game last week. Like, no one.
The Chiefs did exactly what I thought the Eagles were going to do at the end of the year. I thought that the Eagles were going to use those last 3 games to get their head out of their ass, snap out of it, and get into playoff mode, right? Like, okay, we came off a Super Bowl. We got enough wins to get in the playoffs. Now let's turn it on and go. And they never did, but that's what the Chiefs just did, what I thought the Eagles were going to do.
Yeah, like, against the good team. And all right, for Miami, it was cold and, like, fucking fair enough. Like,
it's the
Miami
NFL.
looked off. Yeah, Miami looked off in that game. I wonder how many of those players played in, like, northern colleges, and they played in cold stadiums.
Here's the thing: they're in their division. They have to play in New England. They have to play in Buffalo. Like, they're used to
and New York.
They have, like, they're the only team in their division that's not a cold weather team. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they're used to playing in the cold. Like, you can't use the weather for excuse, especially in the playoffs, right? Like, you hear how hard it is to play in Miami in the beginning of the year because of the heat. Teams still figure out how to beat Miami in Miami at times with that heat. You got to figure out how to play in the cold.
Yeah, I think there is something in the weather and explaining some of the reason that they lost. Like Tua looked frozen. Like, Tua looked like he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. Like,
so why don't you go out there? Why don't you go out there 6 days early and practice?
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand the not going and acclimatizing early. Like, I don't get why you wouldn't do that. So, like, I get it, but you can't fucking say it for everything. Like, you can't say because also there's Chiefs players on the sideline that aren't used to playing in -22 wind chill.
The thing is like, are you going to just accept that Miami's never going to go to the Super Bowl unless the they get all home games. Like, like, is this what we're doing?
Yeah.
So
So the AFC is a cold weather division. Like the NFC has loads of domes and
So
loads of
how
like
come
warm weather
nobody's
teams.
saying? How comes nobody's saying? Well, Houston's a hot city and they play in a dome, so the Texans have no shot in Baltimore because it's going to be cold. Like nobody's saying that. Nobody's
Yeah.
letting the Texans get off with the excuse that it's cold, right? Nobody ever gives anybody a fucking pass for coming to Lambeau Field and getting their ass whooped in January. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
cold. Like, motherfucker, if
Yeah.
you walk outside right now, I got a buddy who likes cold weather, and he just texted me this morning, fuck this cold weather. Like, seriously, that's how cold it is
Yeah.
here. Is he likes the winter, and this is too cold for him.
Yeah. Like it looked bad for the Dolphins. One, because of the narrative of the cold and everybody freezing their asses off on the sideline, but mostly because the Chiefs handled them. The Chiefs defense shut them down outside of one play to Tyreek Hill, where if when you're playing the Dolphins, you give up one play to Tyreek Hill, you're like, okay, that's going to happen. That's fine. But this Chiefs defense is excellent. So I really don't get how they're not getting the same level of appreciation after the Bills managed to handle the Steelers. Like, the Steelers shouldn't have even really been in the playoffs.
Well, this is the thing we're saying, like, right? And I agree with 100% with what you're saying. Like, are we really saying that the Steelers are a better team than the Dolphins? Because that's what it almost comes off. Not you and I, but like, that's what it comes off across. And you can use the cold all you want, but if we go through those teams, the Steelers have a really good receiving core. Miami's is still better.
Yeah, they also
Miami's
have
running game is better. Miami's quarterback is better. Miami's defense and the Steelers' defense, I don't have the stats in front of me, probably pretty close to a wash this year.
It depends. Like the Steelers defense
without TJ Watt, right? So
the Steelers defense without TJ Watt is a wash. Yeah.
And so, well, I was thinking because Jalen Ramsey's so fucking good. You know what I mean? Like with TJ. But
yeah.
But either way, like, are we literally sitting here saying that the Steelers are a better team? Because that's what it sounds like when they're praising the Bills for beating the Steelers, but they're shitting on the Kansas City Chiefs for beating the Dolphins. 10 times out of 10, I would rather play the Steelers this year in the playoffs than the Dolphins.
Yeah, it was also fucking cold in Buffalo as well. Like, it was -8 degrees Celsius. Like, right. Which isn't like super cold, but they had to postpone the game because of a snowstorm. Like, there was fans throwing snowballs into the fucking stadium. So it's not like it wasn't like it's not like it wasn't cold there.
But
like,
the Steelers are a cold team, so it doesn't count.
Fine,
I hate that Miami narrative because it's like saying, well, fuck, both LA teams can't win. Any team in Texas, you can't win because you can't play in the cold. Oh shit. Yeah. If you're from California, Arizona, Florida, like, you know what I mean? It's just the most ridiculous.
Yeah. I do think they could do with sending Tua on a cold weather camp at some point.
Well, I think it goes down to coaching more than the team, right? Why weren't you there for 6 days?
They need to be there early. You play in a cold weather division. Like, you should be preparing for cold weather.
I don't remember if they played Saturday or Sunday on the last week of the season, right? But let's say they played Sunday. Monday morning, your asses should have been already on a plane on your way to Kansas City, practicing at some college or high school outside for a fucking week before you played that game. So that because that's on the code, that's bad. That's lack of preparation. And we both like McDaniel. So that's not a shot at him, but that's it is, but not an indictment on him.
I feel next year they won't have the same approach if they need to go play.
I hope you're
game
right.
in the. I think next year they shouldn't have the same. They shouldn't have the same approach because I think a lot of it was like not understanding how to keep warm was quite an interesting way of looking at it. Actually, like.
I never thought about it until I told you Darius Butler and Aaron Rodgers talked about it, right? But it makes so much. I'm from Wisconsin. It makes so much sense that if I go sit on that heating bench with that big jacket on, right, then as soon as I take that off and off the bench and go back on, I am going to freeze. So Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers says he just wears the coat and keeps his helmet on the heater so that the plastic isn't frozen when he puts his helmet back on. So you wear the coat, you take the coat off, but he never goes and sits on the heating bench because he learned early in his career being a California kid that being warm for that 10 minutes is not the best thing for you in this football game. And I never thought about it, but there's been times where I've went outside in Wisconsin and your teeth chatter a little bit and your muscles are tightened up and like you're like, holy fuck. And then you get inside and you're actually kind of wore out, right? Because your muscles were so tight.
Yeah.
I can't imagine trying to play a football game in that. And then I grew up playing hockey outdoors in some of them because it was before everybody was inside. And it was a whole different world. But because we're young kids, we don't think about it twice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
It's
knowing
about learning how to stay warm.
Yeah, that's learning the right way to do it is what I'm getting at in a whole long.
Yeah, because I've now moved from a place where like the UK is known for being it's not freezing cold, it's just fucking miserable. So, but you learn to cope with the rain. Like you learn how to cope with drizzle and not like.
Yeah, because me and you have had these conversations where I'm like, how do you live where it rains all the fucking time?
Yeah, it just rains all the time. You just learn how to cope with that shit. I've now moved to a place where it's minus 15 degrees Celsius, which is about like not crazy cold for you, but it's about 20 degrees difference in cold for me around this time of year. Like
That's
the UK is about 5 degrees Celsius, like Riga is like minus 15. So I've like had a 20-degree change and I've been spending a lot of time in fucking Thailand recently. So like that is a whole new world of cold.
Maddie doesn't do well with the heat, guys. Maddie and the heat, that humidity fucks Maddie up.
The heat, I'm just not as on it. I'm not as alive for the show or anything when I'm in that heat. But when I fucking fly back to Riga after getting on the plane in Thailand and I end up back in Riga and it's like minus 10, that's like 50 degrees Celsius. So I've only now just learned how to deal with this cold. Like, and I was out fucking doing the bins this morning in just a t-shirt because like my body now understands that I don't need to go out and be wrapped up the entire time. So it's learning to deal with the cold. It's acclimatizing. It's all of that kind of stuff. It's the same as with fucking time differences when the players come to London. Like those guys come to London like a week in advance. Like they come immediately in advance. They don't come like the day before the game and things like that as well. So it was a strange move by the Dolphins. And I don't think the Chiefs should be held to a different standard of how great they played in that game compared to what the Bills did. And I really don't understand what the media get out of the Bills being awesome. Like I don't get like because it just feels like everybody is so pro Bills, so pro Josh Allen. Like I don't understand it personally. What they get out of it.
Negative 11 right now in Wisconsin, which for you is negative 24.
Oh right, okay. I went for a walk in negative 22 the other day, so I do have an idea. But when I first did that, like the first time I went on a walk that was like negative 12. Right, I had my coat on like wrapped up to here, like so I had like my face in here. What I didn't realize I was doing is that because obviously you're breathing on that, so then the air is immediately fucking condensing that's coming out of your mouth, but then it's freezing on my coat. So then like I've got it wrapped up to there to stay warm, but actually I've just got my nose buried in ice. And I was like, I didn't realize until I was like I was like, oh my fucking God, like what's going on? Like my nose is so cold, I feel so shit.
The other night, it was so cold here, and I checked on here just to see. It would have been negative 36 by you.
Yeah, that's just fucking insane. That's like Finland cold.
But that's the funny thing is we go from negative 35 in Wisconsin to 109 in August.
Yeah, that's too hot as well. This is too warm.
It's 145 degree difference from our coldest to our hottest. Like in a year, you know what I mean? Like it's wild.
Yeah, I was like, that can't be right. But then I remembered that we're talking about Fahrenheit.
Right? Yeah. Because
that is a lot. That's crazy.
I don't like you. Got to remember. So for you guys, freezing is 0.
Yeah, because that's what temperature water freezes at.
Right. Yeah. For us, freezing is 32.
Yeah. That just makes no sense. Do you know? Have you seen like the Kelvin? I've seen people explain Fahrenheit to me, and I don't get it. But have you seen the Kelvin
So
one where like it just starts
43
at
degrees
0
is
and that's like minus
109.
30? Right. Okay. That's
49
too
for
hot.
you,
That's
or
like Thailand.
43 for you is 109 in the
That's like
summer for us. Like
you.
it's only like 2 weeks in August, but we do hit that,
Yeah.
and it's humid as
You
shit
go
when
from
we
like
hit that too.
you go from Finland to Thailand, like in
Yeah,
a
we go from
in an
Alaska to
experience
Florida.
throughout the year. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh well.
Alaska
Yeah.
to
Fair
Florida
enough.
we go to. Yeah, too. Another way for people to like really think
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it. It's wild, but um,
That's crazy.
if high school kids can play in this, you can figure out how to get pros to play in this. Was what I was getting at,
Yeah.
though. Like
Yeah, and it just doesn't need to detract against the Chiefs. Like the fact that the Dolphins weren't on their game,
yeah,
like in
that's
the
a good
same way that
point too. Why are we shitting on the
yeah,
Chiefs for the Dolphins being unprepared?
yeah, I thought like the Chiefs handled them. Like the reason the Dolphins look so underprepared is because the Chiefs were ready for everything that the Dolphins threw at them. In the same way, they're going to be ready for everything that the Bills throw at them. In my opinion, as well, like the Chiefs are so ready to play that game. And in the same way that like Baker Mayfield played a great game, the Eagles shit the bed and were awful. That doesn't stop the fact that Tampa played a great game. Jordan Love had the best game of his career, played really great, made some absolute dime throws. The offensive line played well for the Green Bay Packers. That doesn't stop the fact that the Cowboys shit the bed, but like the Packers also played well. So I don't get this whole Chiefs are shit. Chiefs are still not there. Chiefs are still not all that. Have you seen them this regular season? They're so not clicking. Did you see them in their postseason game? They clicked. They clicked in minus 22 degrees wind chill. They'll be fine. Move on. Carry on. Oh,
Yeah, the fact that the Chiefs get shit on for the Bills being unprepared too. The way you put that, I didn't even think about it that way.
yeah.
And that makes it more annoying the way that they put
Yeah.
it. So, and
Yeah.
this is out here, and I just Googled NFL news real quick before we got off of here. So it's being reported that Bill Belichick avoiding any big market franchises.
Just wants to keep out of the media, do his own thing.
What are your
I'm
thoughts on
interested in the
that?
Bill Belichick. I'm interested in the Bill Belichick
Makes
move to
sense.
Atlanta because to me, it makes sense previously. It makes sense depending on how long Bill Belichick wants to play, like wants to be an NFL coach. Like then that makes sense.
Oh,
What it's
hey.
a week. Go on.
So Florio's reporting that the Cowboys and Eagles both actually had interest in Belichick, and he told them both no.
All right, okay, then that makes sense. Mike McCarthy. That makes sense. Mike McCarthy staying, but obviously, I don't believe that Florio's lying. But I also
they know people. That's the thing.
times.
Like, I think Florio's a fucking idiot, but I don't think he's a liar. And I've said this before. Like, I think Florio likes clicks. Somebody told him this, right? Yes, and it makes sense to me. Like, I wouldn't have fired either coach, but I might have thought about firing Sirianni for Belichick before I would have fired McCarthy for Belichick.
That's what I was saying when we were talking. I wouldn't fire Sirianni or Mike McCarthy in a vacuum either. But if Bill Belichick is available with the problems that those two organizations had in the playoffs, where it's just not being ready to play, that doesn't happen if you're under Belichick. But look, I love the move for the Falcons. I think it's a great move for the Falcons. Their owner, Pace, is it?
Blank.
Is that their owner? Ryan Blank.
Arthur Blank. He's the founder of Home Depot.
Yeah, like he's getting on in years now as well. Like he wants to win a Super Bowl. It's an organization that was. It's quite funny that Belichick's going to the Falcons, where the Falcons obviously had that Super Bowl in hand and lost to Belichick's team coming back. It's obviously an organization that's been pretty scarred since that moment. How does it fit Bill Belichick's mantra? Well, they have a good, talented defense, which could use a little bit of work. but Bill Belichick's the guy to come in and do that. They have pieces on defense. Like, nobody's doubting that. Probably do with a D tackle and a D lineman. On offense, much better weapons than the Patriots have
They need
had
a
for the past
quarterback.
3 or 4
You can
years.
simply say it by just saying they need a quarterback.
Yeah. So if they get their quarterback right, this is a great fit for Bill Belichick, because on top of all of that is also the weakest division in football, apart from maybe the AFC South. So it's the weakest division in football. What was the AFC East for all of those years, apart from the Patriots team? It was the weakest division in football if you took the Patriots out of it throughout the whole time. So it's all what Bill Belichick likes. He just desperately needs a quarterback. And for me, with Bill Belichick, loads of people have been saying that Bill Belichick can't develop young talent. Well, hang on. Bill Belichick helped develop Tom Brady. Like, Bill Belichick's only had 3 quarterbacks over his career. Like, if he's developed the greatest of all time in those 3, I'm going to say Russell Wilson.
It is Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And the reason it's Russell Wilson is because it's the best option for him. And nobody thinks about this, but Sierra and Future have a child together, which is Russell Wilson's wife. And Future lives in Atlanta, even though him and Russell have had their differences. It makes sense to be closer to the child's father and mother when they split custody of the child, too. Makes life easier. People always forget that these athletes have to take their families into account when making these decisions. They think it's always in a vacuum for the player, and it's not.
Yeah, there's certain athletes that have to take their family even more into account, and Russell Wilson is one of them, right? Because of who is, like Tom Brady at the end of his career, a lot of talk was he needs to take Giselle into account. Well, obviously, you saw what happened when he seemed to not do that. You know,
I was just going to say, and see how that turned out when he didn't. Yeah.
See how that turned out when he didn't go to one of the big marketplaces that
also
Giselle wanted to be in.
The reason he didn't retire was his marriage not as good as everybody thought it was for years.
Yeah. So exactly. So he didn't see the need to retire and all of that kind of stuff. So I think the personal thing is he's married to football, but Russell Wilson, good family guy. Like, also, like, Russell Wilson in a big market kind of makes sense at this point in his career as well. And also, you take Russell Wilson and you also draft like JJ McCarthy 2nd round if he makes it down to the 2nd round, or you draft a Spencer Rattler or whatever.
Yeah,
and you
Daniel
see what
Jeremiah
as well.
Now also has JJ McCarthy going in the 1st round.
Okay, well, that I tend to lean towards. It seems everybody has him in the 1st round, doesn't it? But if you're the Falcons, you know, you take Russell Wilson and then you take. I hope they don't hold on to Desmond fucking Ritter, because he's just shown he doesn't have it. Or, like, what happens if they take Zach Wilson? Like, they have Russell Wilson and they take Zach Wilson and they see what happens there, because like Zach Wilson's shown enough like stuff. They're not going to be paying. Like, Russell's already said he's not going to take any money. Why? Because you want him in Minnesota.
I want him as our backup quarterback in Minnesota behind Kirk while we draft a young guy to sit in that 3rd quarterback spot and just watch the game for a year or 2.
Yeah.
I think Zach Wilson with Kevin O'Connell could be something special. I think Zach Wilson with Kyle Shanahan could be something special. I think him with McVay could be something special. I think he got put in the absolute worst position for him.
Yeah, somebody who can coach him through the plays while the plays are going on is quite helpful with a Zach Wilson as well. Look, with the Belichick thing, I only think it's a good fit if they get the quarterback, if they get a veteran quarterback. And if Russell Wilson plays like he did for Sean Payton, where it's like, don't turn the fucking ball over, like, use these weapons that we've got here, play conservative, and we'll win football games. And they come in, and Bill Belichick's not going to let him have his own entourage coming in, and he's going to say, Russ, you're a good guy. Like, don't take anything I say offensively. Like, I know you're a big dude.
Past that too, I think he realized how bad of a look that was, because he's not a stupid guy.
Yeah, I think because I think that arguing with him and Sean Payton is quite overblown. Like I don't think Russell Wilson. I feel like Russell Wilson can take his coach shouting at him, right? Like he had Pete Carroll for like years. Like Pete Carroll went fucking
Yeah, I think
mental.
it was more
He
of
was
the
all right
disrespect.
afterwards. Yeah, like Sean Payton probably isn't all right afterwards. Like I can imagine Bill Belichick totally tears you apart, but all of his ex players who were successful with him, obviously winning helps. But all of his ex players who were successful with him said he can joke on with you like afterwards,
Well,
but on the field he'll tear you apart.
even if you look at not Chris Long, because is it Chris? There's two Long brothers. The defensive one that played for the Patriots and the Eagles.
Okay.
When he always talks about the Patriot way and how he went there and won the ring and then went to the Eagles and won the ring and he left the Patriots and went to the Eagles because playing for the Patriots wasn't as fun. But he always talks highly of Bill Belichick and what kind of person Bill Belichick is.
Yeah, like Julian Edelman, like the stories that Julian Edelman comes out with, like kind of humanizes Bill.
Best
like quite a
interview
bit.
ever is Julian Edelman. Dude, if you have not seen him on New Heights with Travis
He's
Kelce,
so good. Yeah.
It was the best podcast I have ever watched.
Yeah, Julian Edelman. And does him and Rob Gronkowski now have a podcast together?
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I just heard about it like 2 days ago.
Yeah, that'd be so much fun. But the stories that they
Julian Edelman let out a story that when he was a rookie, he used to have to buy lunch for all the wide receivers, and he wasn't making shit. So Randy Moss used to hand him like a few $100 all the time to help him pay on the DL, so no other receiver knew, but Moss knew he wasn't making shit.
You go pay, just bring it.
Yeah. Like I thought that shows even more of how Randy Moss got a bad rap in the NFL.
Yeah, good story. So with Bill Belichick and Atlanta, I'm surprised because it feels like more of a project than it actually. I think Arthur Smith did a really bad. I know you know this. I think Arthur Smith did a really bad coaching job in Atlanta with the talent that he had. I think for them to have losing records 3 years in a row, not win the division in that division with the talent that they have on the board. Obviously, quarterback play is a massive factor in that as well. But it felt like the way he was calling the offense was a big deal in that. I'd be interested to know who's going to bring in as his offensive coordinator. I'll be surprised if it's not Josh McDaniel, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Well, it looks like he's bringing his son in as defensive coordinator because he turned down the defensive coordinator job with the Patriots.
All right. His son clearly knows what he's doing. Like, I'm all for shouting out nepotism and like saying this is clear nepotism, which obviously it is. But like, the Patriots had one of the best offenses in the league, one of the best defenses in the league this year. So, like, considering Matthew Judon and Christian Gonzalez were out for most of the year, like their two best players. So I get it. I wonder how many players they're going to be able to draw in free agency now, because you have the big market of Atlanta, the big city. A lot of players come from Georgia and Texas, like, and that general area. Like a lot of players, and you have Bill Belichick. I wonder how many players they're going to be able to get down there in Atlanta as well on free agencies.
Atlanta's an amazing city, so like I think a lot of players want to live there.
Yeah, like it's a big, like a lot of rappers come from there, and
a lot of retired NFL players live there. Like Shannon Sharp lives there.
Yeah, there's like a huge like film industry there in Atlanta as well. It's a big deal. They must have a good like draft position and everything, right? They must do.
I was just looking at the draft the other day. Are they at like 15 or some shit?
It's got to be better than that. 8. They're drafting at 8th.
Oh, that's right, because I needed them to win for us to move up. That's what it was, for the Vikings to move up, and they didn't win, those fuckers.
Yeah, so they draft at 8th, and they have... I'm pretty sure they have their full thing of picks. What's their cap space?
Which means Belichick will trade out of the A spot, draft some bad fucking dude like that should have went in the 3rd round.
Yes. Yeah, that's the... That is the main problem with this. They need to make sure that. Look, I like Belichick, and he clearly has an eye for talent on the
They
defensive
already
side
have
of
a
the
good
ball.
young GM though, so I think Belichick wouldn't be interviewing a second time if he had needed to be the GM too.
Yeah, I hope they keep him out of a. Oh, bloody hell, my whole screen's in Latvian. That's so annoying. I hope they keep him out of the personnel role. They have $26 million in cap space as well, the Falcons. So they're in a really nice position. Like, probably with the ability to move around quite a lot of cap as well if they want to. Yeah. Yeah, they've got a few, like, cuttable players here. Yeah.
Yeah, because the
like,
cap is wild. Because I just read an article the other day. So the Vikings have 46 million in cap space, but the ability to make it 76 or something like that. Like, so the cap's wild, just by restructures and different things.
It'll be an interesting league. God, the Falcons must really regret not selling out for Lamar Jackson right now. Like, when they had the ability at the start of the season to take Lamar Jackson.
The only thing is, and I said this when we were talking about it before, if you did that, all you were doing was negotiating for Baltimore because Baltimore was going to match it.
Yeah, unless Lamar says I'm not going.
Yeah, well, Baltimore had
unless Lamar says I want to go. Oh, Baltimore had the right to keep him, did they?
Yeah,
right,
so they could have.
Because it was that weird franchise tag that they had him on, right, where they can match whatever. Oh, jeez, I hate that.
The non-exclusive.
I don't like that tag. Yeah, I don't like the non-exclusive tag. Not keen. Not keen on that one. Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, I like Bill Belichick going there as well. I think it's a good move for them. Any other moves in the country?
Atlanta gives up 2/3 for Justin Fields, and that's their quarterback moving forward. I don't know.
I think it's Russell Wilson now, probably because I imagine Belichick would prefer a vet. Could you now see Justin Fields going to New England? Maybe, no, because they have the second overall pick, so fuck that. But where's Justin Fields going to go?
Home.
Yeah, sit on the couch.
He'll be somebody's backup, I guess. I don't know.
Nah, you can't have him as a backup.
He can't throw. We don't even need to get.
No. That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. He shows. It's like Carson Wentz. You can't. It's like Cam Newton, Carson Wentz. You can't really have them as a backup because as soon as the backup looks shit, they come in and they do one amazing. Everybody knows they have amazing.
I would rather have Carson Wentz than Justin Fields
as a backup or as
anything.
Starter. As anything. Okay.
As a janitor.
I don't disagree. I don't want Carson Wentz in my building if he's not playing football.
No, I'm just saying, you know what I mean. I was being a dick, but
maybe as my hunter.
And I'm gonna get us in trouble here, but I'm gonna say it. Cam Newton wasn't as great as you all think he was.
No. Cam Newton was a great quarterback for 2 years.
Okay. Yeah.
He was okay. All running quarterbacks. They've got 2 or 3 years.
4 or 5, but you're probably closer. You're probably closer.
He was great. Yeah. No, he was great. One of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for 2 years. He was then top. He was then borderline. If everybody's hating on Dak and everybody hates on Kirk and everybody hates on who else is in that fucking realm?
Cam wasn't a great thrower of the football. He wasn't.
No, Cam threw a decent deep ball. Until his arm fell off. You saw how good he was when his arm fell off and he was playing in New England.
Yeah.
Who else is in that echelon?
People love to think Cam was this Hall of Fame quarterback, and he wasn't.
Yeah, everybody hates on Dak. Everybody hates on Kirk Cousins. Both of them are better than Cam Newton. Not for those 2 years.
They get hate because they're 4th-round picks.
Yeah. Everybody hates Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's a better quarterback than Cam Newton. Cam Newton hates Brock Purdy. I'd rather have Brock Purdy running my offense than Cam Newton. Outside of those 2 years, the year where the year before they went to the Super Bowl and the year where they went to the Super Bowl.
Oh, you mean when there was a fumble at his feet and he refused to dive on the ground to get it in the Super Bowl? Yeah, I remember that too.
Yeah, exactly. He scored 0 points in the Super Bowl. He lost the Super Bowl to Peyton Manning, whose arm fell off.
And I got a lot of friends.
9-0.
Well, a lot is probably an overstatement. I have a few friends with dreads, and Cam Newton has the worst dreads on the planet.
I don't really care about his fashion that much, but he's a massive market.
Wear what you want. I am not saying that. I'm not that guy,
Yeah.
but he makes himself look fucking ridiculous at times.
Like Cam Newton was a big deal for Carolina. Like Cam Newton was an excellent deal for Carolina because Carolina is redundant in all sport. Like,
but Cam
the
Newton
Hornets,
kind of set
nobody's
them
there.
back 10 years by not ever trying to move on from him either.
Well, I don't know, because he puts like, it depends what you're in football for, isn't it? Like, we're all in football to win.
Yeah.
Like, we're all in football to win, unless you're the owner of the Carolina Panthers, in which you might be in football to make money.
Back then, now Tepper wants to fucking win. Like,
yeah,
now
well, Tepper's realized now that he made
that's
his
because
mistake,
he didn't own him under the Cam Newton years. He came in and got rid of Cam. He was like, later, Cam.
Sorry, got you.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But yes, so you have owners who are there to make money. Cam Newton made the Carolina Panthers owners a lot of money. Their stadium is basically half empty when Cam Newton isn't there. It's like Tom Brady's not in Tampa anymore, so they're making like some of the seats, they're turning it into a swimming pool because Tom Brady's not there, so they can't fill those seats anymore. Like, there's certain players who have that attraction, right?
As soon as New England starts winning again, they'll fucking fill those seats up. But
oh yeah, New England will be fine. Just nobody wants to go sit in the fucking freezing cold in New England and watch them lose.
I live in Green Bay. I get offered to go to free games every year, and I always say no.
Isn't there like a waiting list for Lambeau Field
for season tickets? The thing is, I get offered tickets every year because I know people who can't go to games and they don't want to waste the tickets. It's not my team, and it's way too fucking cold. So no, I don't go anymore. And I get a better seat from my living room for games. Like, I quit going to game. I had season tickets to the Vikings before we moved to Green Bay, and because Minneapolis was about 2 hours from my house where I used to live, so we used to just drive and then come back after the games. But I don't go to games here anymore because it's too fucking cold. Like, I get a better view from my couch. So
yeah, he's not that great. It's not that great of an in-season. It's not that great of an in-person sport to watch compared to like certain other sports, just because of the way the stadiums are built up a little bit as well.
I'm at a point in my life I don't want to be in person for any sport anymore.
Oh, I'll go watch it. Obviously, like, if somebody said to me, "You're going to go watch the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium," like, I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" Like, let's go. My dad's flying over to Dallas. Basically, the plan was to take Mum on a romantic trip, but then actually they're going to Texas because the Cowboys are playing at the so they're going to go to Arlington and watch a game in AT&T.
I lived in Texas for a year and a half. It's a pretty fun state.
Yeah. No, that makes like they're gonna have a great. They're going for the eclipse. Like, there's an eclipse around there at some point.
I want to know how they're gonna feel when they walk past the first guy who's got a fucking pistol on his hip.
Yeah, they went like it's the border guards, man, in the States are crazy, like so crazy. Also, Justin Fields, there aren't a lot of places that make sense. I've been trying to rack through the teams in my head, and I've come up with the Saints. If he doesn't go to Atlanta. So I've come up with the Saints, where he's not going to be a backup because he could go backup in a lot of places. Denver right now. And then that's it.
Shit.
Seattle.
If Sean Payton hated fucking Russell Wilson, he is going to hate the way that Justin Fields plays. The thing is what the rumors are is that Russell Wilson couldn't run his offense the way he wanted him to run it because he wants the reincarnation of Drew Brees, I think, not the guy.
He doesn't want the reincarnation of Taysom Hill, does he? That's more Justin Fields. That's more what he's going for. But I guess like there's plenty of backup positions for him to go to, right? Like, if you have Justin Fields backing up for the Jets, right? Like, if Aaron Rodgers goes down, you're going to do like Justin Fields raises your floor as a team quite significantly. You can run a lot of mediocre offense. Like, Justin Fields' offense is never going to look horrendous. Like if you just say run this ball. So if Aaron Rodgers goes down, the Jets aren't going to fall off. Like they'll be all right. Like he's probably a great backup quarterback. It's just everybody loves the backup quarterback.
I think if he doesn't stay in Chicago, his days of starting are over.
I think his days. I think he'll probably be the first number that people ring when their quarterback goes down. If he doesn't stay in Chicago,
I'd rather have Nick Mullins.
No,
he throws for 400 yards at least. Like, I'd rather have a quarterback who can fucking throw.
Yeah,
the Vikings won more games with Justin Fields this last year than they did.
I think that it's why I don't know what it is. What I want from my backup quarterback is
I don't know what your love for Justin Fields is. You just can't let that.
Like the flaw. I just said he's mediocre and there's no fits for him. Like I don't love him. I just don't.
You still have this tiny grasp.
I still have this tiny belief that he'll come back into the. He'll come back into the league. Watch, he'll go be backup for the Minnesota Vikings under Kevin O'Connell, and that'll look like loads of fun.
First, fuck you, and second, the Bears would never trade him to us.
Yeah, it'll have to be. Look, Justin Fields is probably like the Bears are so dumb that Justin Fields will probably go and the Bears are so dumb they'll keep Justin Fields and say, oh, he needs to duke it out with Caleb Williams, which then just creates an unnecessary thing in the building. And as soon as Caleb Williams has 2 bad games when he's starting, then Fields then goes. Then the whole fan base is saying, oh, we look better with Fields. Fields is able to break off 95-yard runs, at least, and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that would be dumb.
All right. Well, I'm excited. I know this is your favorite weekend of football. I'm excited to watch some football tomorrow. So I love it when we have it on Saturday and Sunday. I fucking love it. So,
yeah, I think it's just perfect on Saturday and Sunday. I can have it every day of the week. It's just the timings don't work so well for me on those late primetime games. But on Saturday and Sunday, I can happily be shit on Monday. Everybody's shit at work on Monday, so that's fine.
Well, there you have it. Be shit at work on Monday. That is the message you get from today's show.
Quiet quit. Everybody be shit on Mondays. Fuck your companies that you work for.
Yeah, well, we don't even need to get into fuck companies because that's a whole different podcast. But all right, guys, let us know what you think. Hit us up in the comments. With the off season coming, if there's anything you want to see us do a video on NFL related, let us know in the comments, and we'll see if we can make that happen too. Because we got a couple more weeks, and then it'll just be draft stuff we'll be going through, and then free agency. So we'll have a lot of time to do different things. So if anybody has any fun ideas, throw them down there. We're down for doing them. I appreciate you all watching. If you haven't went and followed us on Rumble, do that on already. And Rumble's a wild place. Why wouldn't you want to be on Rumble? It's pretty fucking wild over there to begin with.
It's like the fucking wild west of the podcasting world.
In the internet, it is. It's where Andrew Tate and all those guys pop their flags up. So it's a wild place.
It's not quite Kick. I don't think I could hack Kick. I feel like Kick is like where
I don't even know what that is.
You go to die. It's like where if you get banned from everything else, they'll find you on Kick.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.